lots of hot wiring going on here. So officially, welcome everybody. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to have everyone here with us. These turning point events have been fundamental. I think I used the word pivotal in assisting us keeping on riding the crest of the waves that keep coming, and lots of food for thought, lots of courage as opposed to fear, because we don't want to be wrapped up and embroiled in the fear aspect, because that's a downward spiral, seriously. So these turning point events, having people like Errol Wiener, who was the head astrologer at Findhorn in Scotland, the top of the UK, join us. Is an honor and a privilege to have Sister Dipty Noren, who is one of the heads of Brahma Kumari in South Africa, joining us. Is an honor and a privilege to have Dr. Reddy with us also, a biological dentist, to be with us, to sharing his infinite wisdom. Real honor and a privilege to have a panel of people so eager to come in and join and share and give and educate and raise our awareness and build everything towards courage, because this is where we're heading. And we're also heading in the situation where I'm saying to people, look, we can't change everything. Change what you can, leave the rest, and work on yourself. Because this year, and Errol will confirm probably just now, 2021 is about self-development, and we are being forced to do our self-development. Those people that are aware, the people that are hoping we're going to go back to old normal, they're not really part of what I'm speaking about right now. Us, all of us on the group now, we are being forced and challenged to shift. And I've had the honor and the privilege of working with quite a few COVID ICU patients, and I've some of them I've kept on for 24 hours, started again another 24 hours on my quantum device, speaking to the relatives, in close contact with them, because of course, and we're all going to be speaking about this, but the wards are closed, you can't get in. Sometimes it's a week, you still haven't seen your loved one, your relative, you're concerned of them on their own. You know, you're getting small little bits of information from the doctors and the nursing staff who are challenged too, and you're hoping that they're fine, and they're calling me and Jane, you know, how are their emotions, how are they feeling, are they at peace, are they relaxed, what's happening, the ventilator burst the lung, they're bleeding through the nose, has the bleeding stopped, have they got enough hemoglobin, you know, are they hydrated, have they got enough oxygen, and things like this, which I'm able to manage from the device, which is absolutely perfect and superb, because I'm speaking to their subconscious, you see. So they really enjoy that link up with me, so that they feel a little bit closer. They feel they're doing something, because this is the thing. You can't get in, you can't do anything. Nobody's telling you anything. And you know what? I mean, the percentage of many people are dying. We don't want to get to that point where we are in ICU and so on. We always want to follow prevention, which is what we speak about. And then they die, some people, right? And then I'm dealing with the relatives as well. They want to tie up the loose ends. They want to, you know, get some sort of finality and closure. And then I go through the report with them again, you know, and the root causes and things like that. So I'm dealing in a very dynamic situation. It's touch and go most of the time. It's a complete emotional roller coaster. And the point I'm getting to is this impermanence. We need to understand impermanence, okay? And the attachment that we have to people and material things, and the reliability on people, and work on a point where we can look at surrendering, because, you know, the here and now is always going to be the here and now. The people are always going to be around us and with us, whether it's physical form or invisible form, spiritual form, dimensional forms. So the purpose, I think, the sum total of today is to look at impermanence, to re-examine birth, death, rebirth, to examine the impermanence, to look at surrendering, and to tie this whole lot up together with the astrological, scientific predictive alignments that are right now. We've got a new moon, Aquarius in new moon today. So we're going to hear from Errol on that. And then bring in also the emotional aspects and have a look and see how we can also look at the aspect of our teeth and our body and isolate what are we holding on to. Where are you sore? Where's the pain? So think about that now, because I'm going to call Errol in. We're wanting to finish by 8:30 South African time, because we've got things to do, and also people like to prepare. Some of us, it's late at night as well and things like that. So we're aiming to do that. So think about now, we're going to go into Errol for about 20 minutes, where that pain point is. And then Dr. Reddy and I and Dipty will talk about physical, neurological, emotional, and spiritual aspects of energy. Okay, so exciting lineup. Most of you are in. Thanks for allowing me to do the introduction. And Errol, thank you for waiting patiently. I'm gonna hand over to you. So speak nice and loudly, because I've obviously got my phone near me because of the Facebook. So you're a little bit further from the microphone than usual. So I'm going to hand over to you. It's an honor and privilege to have you on our Turning Point event, Errol, and to be part of it, and to literally have walked this route since April last year. And we really value your input. Over to you, Errol.
Thanks, Jane. Well, like tonight, we said that we're going to focus upon the issue of death.
Yes.
As a kind of thing. So in terms of, from an overall perspective, death is every sense of the word. So I'll focus on that and then work in different things astrologically and such like.
Yeah.
So first of all, I think the most important thing that we need to share about the issue of death is start like collectively, because at the moment, 2020, 2021, especially these 2 years, which are in fact called interesting the turning point years for humanity. So very, very short turning point. We are in the very turning point, or the critical crisis turning point of the end of the age of Pisces, and in the process of entering the age of Aquarius, which takes place once every 2,000 years or so. And so it's a collective death. We are going through a collective death, humanity, and a collective rebirth, which happens every 2,000 years. And everything is actually that is connected to the age of Pisces is actually dying, literally dying. It's dying collectively, it's dying at a national level, it's dying at a social level, it's dying at a personal level. Everything that's old and outdated and outworn and no longer is appropriate for human evolution, and that's a lot of stuff, obviously, is dying. And people themselves inwardly are dying because they're all having to give up things which are part of the past, part of the age of Pisces, no longer appropriate, especially belief systems, because the main difference, one of the main differences between Pisces and Aquarius is that the Pisces age relies upon belief, various different beliefs, religious beliefs, racial beliefs, and so on. And the Aquarius age is relying upon, now and in the future, upon knowledge. So in Aquarius, we have to know, we have to be able to say, I know, whereas in the Piscean age, we say, I believe. That is a huge swap over, because most people believe things, they don't know things. People talk about God as if they say, I believe in God, or I don't believe in God, and so on. It has nothing to do with truth or reality, because if you believe something, it could be wrong, obviously. But can people say, I know God? Can people say, I know the soul? Can people say, I know that reincarnation is truthful? And can people say, I know that death doesn't exist and never has existed, rather than I believe? So people have to switch their consciousness from belief to knowledge, which is a form of death. It's the death of belief and the rebirth into knowledge. And this is a big change that people are going through and forced to go through. And people's beliefs will therefore no longer do them any good, because they simply are not going to function and work anymore and help people in any sort of way. So that's a collective death, and we are experiencing that last year and this year in a very extreme sense, of which the pandemic is but one manifestation, and so on. And so, for instance, the pandemic and the lockdowns and wearing masks, etc., is a sort of form of death, because people are having to sacrifice what is normally their ego freedom. And you get people demonstrating and saying, who says I have to wear a mask? Who says I have to go into lockdown? I want my ego freedom. And ego freedom is also having to die, because we're moving from ego to soul, which is a whole different type of culture and civilization. So that's another form of death. So people are dying in that sense. It's the dying emotion. They're dying in terms of their mentality, their beliefs, and it's a very painful process of death. But in order to be reborn into the age of Aquarius, one has to die. One has to give up. You can compare it to crucifixion and resurrection. In fact, the Pisces, being the 12th sign of the zodiac, the final sign, is in fact the sign of crucifixion, which is why the avatar of the Piscean age, Jesus, had to be crucified, because he was like the living representative of the age of Pisces. And Aquarius is the age of rebirth, which is totally different. The cross is a symbol of Pisces, and the rose in the center of the cross is a symbol, which is a symbol of the soul, is a symbol of Aquarius. So that's another big process of death. The ego of humanity is being crucified, literally, and in order to prepare it to resurrect and to become soul identified rather than ego identified. That's a huge shift, and a very painful shift for everyone. And most people, of course, have no idea that this is happening. They just caught up in the slipstream of what's occurring, and they have no idea that this is actually a crucifixion, resurrection, death, rebirth process which the whole of humanity is going through. And humanity has no say in this. This is a planetary evolutionary impulse. It happens every 2,000 years. Humans have no say in this process. You can't say I don't want it, or it should be later, or it should be this, or it should be that. It's happening. No one can stop it. And all people can do is come to understand what's happening, so that they work through it with knowledge rather than with their minuscule ego beliefs, which will do no good. So that's one thing which is very important.
So Errol, you agree with me? Change what you can, leave what you can't, and work on yourself.
Yes, absolutely. But I think that what people have to realize is that the core change outside of all the rest of the changes, which are of course appropriate. We're talking about changing your diet. We're talking about eating healthy food rather than unhealthy food. We're talking about looking after yourself in an appropriate way rather than not looking after yourself. We're talking about all manner of things. But the core change is that people have to switch their identity from ego identity to soul identity, from mortality identity to immortality identity, from belief to knowledge. This is the core change. It's like I said to people, last year when I already predicted as astrologer that what was going to be happening last year, as most astrologers did, that your only safeguard was going to be your creation of alignment to your higher self, to your immortal self, to your soul, to your atma, to your dusha, to your anima, to your tamashi. I mean, every single nation, every culture, and every race and religion has a term for the soul. But if you said to people, you're talking about the soul, you're talking about the atma, you're talking about the dusha, who is the soul? Tell me. I don't want your beliefs. You talk about the soul. Who is the soul? I want to know what is the soul. Well, you can know what the soul is, because if the soul exists, you can know what the soul is. But in order to do that, you have to create an internal relationship with your soul, with your higher self. And you have to ask your soul, you have to invoke from your soul the knowledge. I want to know who you are. I want to know exactly who you are. So I can say to people, the soul is this. I have a direct experience, contact with the soul. Any of myself have had it many, many times. And I know what the soul is. You can even go as far as to say, I know who God is. Not, I don't believe in God. I know who God is because I had direct contact. I remember when Carl Jung was interviewed by BBC many years ago, the reporter said to him, do you believe in God? And Carl Jung looked at him in the eye and said, I don't believe in God. I know God. And the reporter knew that when Carl Jung said that, he was actually telling the truth. And you could see the shock on the reporter's face as he suddenly realized, I'm speaking to someone who knows God, who doesn't believe in God. We can't do that because Aquarius is involved with knowledge. But people have to do inner work. They have to do the inner life.
Yes.
They have to do the inner communication. They have to do the asking. They have to do the invoking. Because that is the only safeguard during this particular time, because that is a rebirth. That is the rebirth into Christ consciousness, into immortality. And that takes you out of fear. Because the biggest fear that people have, of course, is death, is dying. That's people's biggest fear generally, whether that's the subtle or gross fear.
Yes.
And that's ego fear. And you can't come out of that unless you're in contact with your immortal soul and know it exists and know that you are immortal because you are an immortal being too. That's the core. The rest of it, as you say, people have to do their best to change their lives in whatever way possible. And everyone can only do a limited amount of that because we're all human. But that's not the core. The core is what I just talked about.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thanks for explaining that.
So when people say, like, how can I protect myself from the pandemic? That's the way you protect yourself, because the soul provides protection. But the soul, what I can say that's about the soul. The soul waits for the human to come to it. The soul says, I'm here. I'm your immortal self. I know everything. I'm your protector. I'm your guide. I'm your teacher. I'm contacted from within yourself. But I will not respond to you until you respond to me. You must come to me before I come to you. Because that's the testing process. So vaccines are not the way to protect yourself. Your soul is the way to.
The soul. Just a second, Errol. I just want to make sure everyone did hear that. So the protection is not an outward thing. The protection is very much an inward thing. And Errol, just hold on a moment. I want to call on Sister Dipty to come in if she wants to comment on something about that specific thing. Where our Dipty, if you're there, the the protection is inside us as opposed to some external.
Yes, thanks, Jane. Yeah. Thank you, Errol. What you're saying, I have such a powerful resonance with, because it's really the journey of going deep inside and feeling anchored in the experience of being a soul. I'm a being of energy. I am a soul. I'm an immortal being, and I'm an eternal being. And I think my personal experience is just really investing in that energy. Then you emit what is originally who you are. And what you are originally is peace and love and purity and spiritual power. And these are high frequency energies that protects you. I think compared to what the world goes through of fear, worry, pain, negativity, it's like what we call body consciousness or low frequency energy. So I really resonate with what my brother Errol's talking about, because my personal experience is when you deepen that vibration of who you are, your vibration is your protection. And I think when people are in hospital and all this, they strip themselves of the vibrational energy. They become so naked of vibrational energy. And when you become naked of vibrational energy, then everything makes entry. And so how when I emit, and I found since last year, really in the early morning hours, really to increase that flow of energy, because that's a protection for us, but also for those around us, both. So thank you, Errol. I'm really enjoying what you're saying.
Great, thank you. Thank you too. Namaste.
Namaste, Errol.
I was a yogi for 5 years, you know.
Oh, wonderful.
25. I was a yogi for 5 years with Yoga Raj Manifinga in South Africa. So
Lovely.
5 years of very intense experience, including teaching yoga, teaching Kriya Yoga, teaching Raja Yoga for many years.
Lovely.
Great. Thank you. Great. Yeah, so that's the most important thing, and that's inner work. And one of the things that people have to realize is that the pandemic is carrying divine purpose. It's not just a virus. It's carrying divine purpose. The lockdowns especially have very special divine purpose because they force people to stay at home. They force people to be able to start to meditate, to start to think deeply, to start to practice alignment, to start to make contact with their soul, because people do not go into lockdown voluntarily. The ego does not like any lockdown situation. It just likes complete ego freedom to self-destruct, because the egos are self-destructive. They stop themselves to death, drug themselves to death, drink themselves to death, eat themselves to death, emotionalize themselves to death, and so on and so on, and work themselves to death. So how does the divine stop that and say, you're killing yourself, and I care for you, so I want to help you to start living rather than killing yourself? Well, I'll put you in lockdown. Perfect excuse. That's what lockdowns are for. The people shouldn't complain. People should be very happy about the lockdowns and hope the lockdowns carry on for the next 2 years at least, because then the people got lots of time to meditate and to internalize. And that's I'm talking about the truth of that. That is what the pandemic and the lockdowns are for, to force humanity back into itself and back into relationship with the soul, and as an extension with the relationship with the Lord of the world, God, so to speak, the Ancient of Days, some of the names given to that great being who is the God.
And I think, Errol, to add to what you're saying, I mean, we have been given free choice as humanity, people working, living on the earth. We have been given free choice, and therefore some of the things that have gone on and are going on, and that the atrocities, etc., if you want to buy into that, it's also your free choice. If you choose to not buy into it and raise your vibration, as Dipty saying, above all of that, that's your free choice as well. So the ego, what you're telling me, that what you're saying to us and teaching us is you can choose the ego, or you can choose your truth, your inner awareness, your inner knowledge, your knowing, your knowledge, as you said, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the ego. We all have egos, and we all have to have egos that wouldn't be able to function on the earth. But the question is the ego a channel, a medium, an expression for the soul, which is what the ego should be, mentally, emotionally, physically? Or is the ego attempting to live its own life in which it is the God? It is the highest God. Well, most people are looking at the ego as if it's the highest God. And even though it's common sense that the ego is a self-destructive entity, I mean, it's self-destructive almost all the time with everything it does, while it thinks it's the God. And until it realizes it's not the God, it's a channel for the God, for the soul, then things change. Then the ego becomes an expression of the God rather than identifies as itself as the God. And there's a whole Greek mythology which you can see, and there's movies made about it. The Clash of the Titans. If you see there's two movies made about it, the old one and the new one, which is basically about exactly what situation that we're going through now. Where man thinks he's the highest God, and he rejects the gods. And the gods get very upset. They don't get angry, they get upset because they realize this is a catastrophe for man if you have that attitude. So they can't do anything negative to gods or destructive because they only function at a level of light. So they have to call in Pluto, Lord of the Underworld, who's also a god, and they give him permission to now bring catastrophes upon humanity, to force the human race to change and to re-recognize the gods and enter into a co-operative, co-creative relationship with them. That's what the whole story is about, the Clash of the Titans. And then Pluto releases what's called the Krakon, which is this great underworld monster, which basically is a symbol for things like the pandemic and so on and so on and so on, to force humanity to change. That's what the pandemic and the lockdowns and the economic collapse is all about. I mean, people talk about the economic collapse as if this is a terrible catastrophe. Our present economic system is catastrophic. It's totally self-centered. It's totally selfish. It breeds wholesale corruption, as we know very well in South Africa and other countries. And it's selfish. It's greedy. It's avaricious. It's self-destructive. It's killing people. It's not the economic system that will manifest in the age of Aquarius. We have a complete new economic system that's going to manifest. So that's another thing that's dying. The old economy is dying. The old politics is dying. Even the old way of entering into marriage relationship is dying. The old way in which you deal with families are dying. For instance, when you deal with families only as blood, as ego, you have dysfunctional families. Most families are dysfunctional. Not 10%, like 90% are dysfunctional. If a family relates as a soul and works at a soul level, which is a group soul, it's totally different to you working as a blood family. So even families have to change. So everything is changing, which is a death process, and moving into a soul-infused process, which is not easy. It's difficult. It's complex. But that's what we're moving into, which is the rebirth process. So I think that's a big thing about death, which is a more collective understanding of death, and perhaps a more complex but necessary to understand the process of death.
So Errol, what we're saying then is very much, we've said it before, is it's the death of the old, the negativity, the old patterns, the old paradigms, the surrendering to the things that are no longer serving us. I mean, with Dipty's New Year event, we wrote down literally what we were going to leave behind and what we were going to be moving. This was the calendar New Year. I know we're coming up, and I think you all heard that we're coming up to the end of the Piscean year. And the 21st of March, by the way, there'll be another turning point, because that's when the beginning actual astrological year begins for Aquarius, in any event. So we've been talking a lot about the surrendering, the leaving behind, and Dr. Reddy and I were talking a bit earlier as well, is that this pull on the ego and our resistance to surrender and our attachment to things and stuff is causing pain in the body. And Dr. Reddy and myself were talking about the teeth and emotions and how this all plays out in our resistance to shift forward. Dr. Reddy, I think you're with us. Did you want to expand a little bit more on what you were saying to me?
Yeah, with the energy shift that's taking place, and you find that because the emotions of the individual is related to the meridians of the body, and the teeth itself is related to the meridians of the different organs of function. So when there's a neurological disorder in forms of stress and fear, as we've seen in the pandemic, and people often impact on to the teeth, and they find that they're either the teeth crack, what you call cracked tooth syndrome, or they grind the teeth, and as a result of that, the wear of the teeth and causes the jaw formation to change. So there's a cascading effects, and even to the extent whereby this pandemic has affected people's sleep patterns. As Errol said, that it's the death of the ego, and our loving Sister Ben said that it's about the inward path, inward journey. when people look externally, everything outside of you implodes, right? And the teeth is a consequence of that, right? And you find that as a result of that, the impact is greater on visible things, and the teeth is one of them that we see.
Most definitely. And I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit more. Thanks, Dr. Reddy. That bruxism, the grinding of the teeth, and I mean, I actually looked that up, and it means people feel they're not allowed to speak up. And Errol, you're going to probably interpret this in your space. They feel angry that they're not heard. Can you believe it? I mean, Errol, I mean, this is what grinding the teeth actually means. And I mean, how relevant is that? 12% of adults, 16% of children grind their teeth. And it's playing out. What you're saying is playing out in the physical.
Yes, I mean, one of the things about that is that, you know, while people get angry with objective forces like the politics, the president, the government, and so on and so on and so on, nothing is going to happen, because all they'll do is grind their teeth because of the anger and the fury they feel towards external forces and projecting their own problems onto the external forces. It's very, very difficult and complex to be a president or a prime minister at any time. But during the present time, the pandemic, etc., it's even more difficult for them. They are under great pressure, and I have a lot of compassion for Ramaphosa. I mean, I have a lot of compassion for leaders who are good leaders, who are doing their best under extreme circumstances, and I don't project anything upon them. The bad leader, of course, unfortunately, we have too many bad leaders, but I think that we're very fortunate in this country to have Cyril Ramaphosa as president. He's one of the best leaders in the world.
Thank you for your, thanks for that, Errol.
Yeah, well, Cyril paid me a lot of money to say that.
Clearly.
The other thing about that too, which I wanted to share, is this: a lot of people, when they realize they have to do their internal work, their connection with their soul, their affirmations, and change their life, and not focus upon the externals we've been talking about, get fearful, because they think, well, great, but how am I going to make enough money to live? How am I going to manifest my needs? If that's the case, which is a genuine fear and a genuine concern, well, the thing that people need to know is that, and this is very important, everyone has a soul, a higher immortal self, an all-potent self. It's omniscient, it's omnipotent, it's omnipresent. So it's here all the time, it's all-powerful, etc. But that soul is linked to the collective soul of humanity, because if every single individual has a soul, there's a collective soul. So it's a huge collective kingdom of souls called the Fifth Kingdom, who are all in contact with one another telepathically and all cooperate together. And they exist in universal abundance. So in the world of soul, there is only universal abundance. There is no limitation. The moment people start making contact with the soul and start affirming and start living in that presence, which is, of course, we were talking about there being a much higher vibration, literally, in terms of energy. Then what happens is that they start finding out that their needs, whatever their needs might be in terms of money or etc., start manifesting. That's called the laws of manifestation of spiritual economics. That's the way me and myself have lived for 40 years like that. If we wouldn't have lived like that, we would have been dead a long time ago. Or we would have been out of our body a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because you have, in that case, faith and trust. So you have to do that, know that, and also have faith and trust that your needs are going to manifest. But the other side of that equation, which is part of that, is that it requires people to change their whole economic outlook on life. Because what manifests are your needs, not your desires. There's a big difference.
True.
That in turn means that people have to start living much more simply, with far less material possessions, because that's part of need, not greed, and that's part of the new economics. So these things are all interconnected. So people's needs will manifest,
yes,
but not their greeds.
And this is the attachment that everyone has to all these material, physical things, right?
Yeah, that's what people should start doing. People should start getting rid of everything they don't need.
Yeah.
They should look at their possessions and say, what do I need and what do I don't need? And what you don't need, give away or sell. Get rid of it and start living much more simply. And also, to live simply does not mean you live in poverty. It means you live simply and in ordered beauty. Your life is ordered with beauty, and you're also living simply. You're not giving up anything that is lovely and good and necessary. You're giving up what is unnecessary and only putting weights on your shoulders and only giving you extra financial trouble and extra pressures and attachments to possessions you don't need. People should just do it. Take a risk. Do it. It's great. I mean, once again, we come back to the subject of death. When people pass on, and everyone's going to pass on and leave their bodies between minus plus 70 years of age, they take nothing with them. Nothing. You can't take anything. You can't take your bank account. You can't take your car. You can't take your clothes. You can't take anything. You just go with your consciousness, the way you develop your consciousness, your knowledge, your understanding, your wisdom, and so on and so on. So why not give all the stuff away that you don't need before you leave your body? It's much more constructive. It's actually common sense, and people have this fear that if they live simply, not in poverty or anywhere near poverty, but they live simply, they live ecologically, and they live in ordered beauty, that they somehow going to be missing something or losing something. But it's not. It's the opposite. You gain in every single sense of the word. And you feel this huge weight off your shoulders as you give away things you don't need, to sell things you
Sorry, everyone. I try to bring in the Facebook on. On the computer, and it took us out the webinar. But we're back in again. Errol was talking about giving away books. Just pick up where you were there, Errol.
I'm just saying, me and myself have read probably, between us thousands of books. I mean, literally, I've been reading books like that, those people since I was 21. I'm 72 now. And we have 10 books. The rest of the books are all given away. The moment we've read a book, studied the book, and no longer need it, we just give it away to people who need it. And if at any time you happen to need that book, you happen to need some other book, it'll come to you.
I think also, and also, Errol, I think it's the clutter. The clutter clutters your emotional body.
Yeah.
Your etheric. It clutters the etheric, and this is where we store all our emotions. So again, it's just the straightforward physical attachment to things. And I'm in agreement with you there about simplifying things, living ecologically. I mean, I've got tons of courses. Errol and I has been speaking a long time about all of this, and he said to me, Jane, create ecological courses on sustainability, how to grow your food, how to live simply, how to structure your home, bring the light into your home, live sustainably. And I actually did that. And Errol, you'll be very happy. I've put these courses on my website for people to go in and look and learn and be part of this newer, the birthing of a new civilization. You can say that. Restoring the new space. And if anybody wants to, it's an idea to go and Google the Huawei company in China and go and have a look at that campus, how they've set up that company. Errol, it is, the ecology is there, the greenery is there, the top star restaurants are available for their people, top quality food, everything is organic, high vibrational living. And this is the beginning of that birthing of that new civilization. And that's what I'm saying to people, and we said last turning point as well, Cast your mind to the future, get a feel, ask your soul, get a feel of yourself, your purpose, your vocation, what you're going to need, physically need in the future, and then come back to the present and manifest.
Yeah, actually, there's a lovely saying in the esoteric teachings by the Tibetan Master DK, which says, the only true peace is the peace of purpose. If you have purpose, real purpose, and you're manifesting that purpose in your own particular way, you will have inner peace. But if you haven't got that purpose, you can have $1 trillion.
Right. So guys, let's just stop with that now. We're talking about purpose, and I'm going to speak to you about what Dr. Reddy and myself were talking about a bit earlier. Dr. Reddy, the top 8 teeth on the left. If you have problems with the top 8 teeth on the left, you have problems with manifesting your purpose. Just by the way, FYI. So we're going to get to that point where we identified where our pain point is. And, you know, also, Errol, the top 8 teeth on the right are linked to not finding your place in the outer world. And, you know, your wisdom teeth. We're going to talk about that. In fact, Dr. Reddy, maybe you want to come in and talk about these wisdom teeth, because what happens to all of us? Put your hands up. How many of you got your wisdom teeth left? Wisdom teeth gone. You know, our mental, our heart space gone, our balance gone, our maturity gone, the ability to excel, to accomplish ourselves, to gain autonomy. Our self-worth goes. Our refusal or to improper ability of the mentality to take place. And also in a world to trust ourselves and to please. We're wanting to always have this thing, we've got to please others. We're always wanting to be liked. We're always wanting to be loved and accepted. Now, that's just our wisdom teeth, guys. I mean, we could have probably a whole morning with Dr. Reddy talking about the teeth. Now look at that with the teeth. Dr. Reddy, do you want to come in and talk about, you know, the dangers of these wisdom teeth going out and living our purpose?
Yes, you know, the most important to understand that the body is a machinery. It's integrated together and is not in isolation. The teeth is a cell, is not a mass of tissue that's lying there. So it's got nerves, it's got arteries, it's got veins, it's got related to lymph drainage. And how does teeth plays a part in the whole integrated body and soul? So it's important to understand that if you remove something that's created by the universe and by the higher force, you create an imbalance. So if you remove your wisdom teeth, and the name wisdom teeth tells you as well, there's something called critical part of it. And we know that from the point of meridians, the wisdom teeth is related to your heart chakra. Right? So when you remove your wisdom teeth, you often become imbalanced. And people say, but why do you need the wisdom teeth? But we know that from the scientific and spiritual aspects, every part is related to a nerve conduction. Right? And for example, that your premolars is related to your large intestine. Right? And the front teeth is related to your kidneys, you know. And so every part of the body is related together. So what I do in my practice, I create the environment to develop the jaw, right, to ensure the wisdom teeth fits in there. Wow. And not to remove it out.
And I mean, just think about it, what you just said, Dr. Reddy. How many people, put your hands up, are on heart medication? Well, hopefully not too many people listening today, but how many people out there? It's one of the top 3 causes of death, heart disease and circulation. Now, how many of those people actually had their wisdom teeth out, Dr. Reddy? Many. So can you see how, you know, this is all playing out? We've got Errol telling us about our purpose. We've got Dipty is going to come in a moment too and talk about the flow and living our purpose and the, you know, the unending energy field, but we've messed it up. We've literally pulled our wisdom teeth out. I mean, how wise has that been? Hey, you know?
Yes. And the people who crack the teeth, and it can be repaired. What's the science behind it? If you get a fracture of your hand, whether you're 5 years old, 15, 25, or 50 or 70, you heal. You heal from within, but you create the climate to heal. You have the correct vitamins, the correct nutrition, and where, for example, you can use an almond gold, for example, right, to create the environment for tissue regeneration. So you have the capacity to do that. So you're not interested, you must remove the teeth. People who grind the teeth will find what's the cause of it, what's the emotional dysfunction, how do you repair the motion to ensure that the form is factored in to be rehabilitated. It's called function and form. If you get your function of life correct, and what Errol said, get rid of and empty yourself all the things you don't need in life. So get your emotions in balance, and you find that things like the so-called teeth and your joints, and you heal better and you feel better because you're almost in equilibrium.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely, absolutely true, and vitally and really vitally important. So, like, if you've got excess material stuff that's on your shoulders and that's cluttering up your home and cluttering up your life, it's cluttering up your emotional astral body too. If you start giving that away and letting it go, and especially, like, giving it away to people who need that kind of stuff, for example, then your emotional body starts to be cleared, your mental body starts to be cleared, your home starts to be cleared as an energy system, because everyone's home is really their temple. We don't need churches and synagogues and mosques and temples out there. The home is and should be the temple. Everyone's temple. The home should be created as a temple. If possible, space should be created somewhere in the home, which is only for meditation. So it's like your little meditation sanctuary in your home environment, and you create a temple, a sacred temple in your home, and people who walk into your home immediately feel that there's a harmonious energy, that there's a healing energy, a sacred energy, far better than they felt in their synagogue or their church or whatever. Everyone should make their home a temple. It should be absolutely essential. I mean, in the age of Aquarius, which is already here, but in the age of Aquarius, that will be everyone's temple, the home. Everyone, that it's a small home or a larger home, makes no difference. The first thing we do whenever we move into a new home, and we've probably been in more homes than anyone on this planet as we travel around the world, is we immediately create a sacred temple in our home. Within 2 hours, our home, when we move into whatever it might be, wherever it looks like, is a sacred temple with the right energy, with the incense, with the beautiful pictures, with the beautiful colors. Imogen does that mostly. She's a great home artistic creator. And immediately, like within an hour of moving into a new house, we've created a sacred temple. And everyone should do that with their home.
I think,
you also give away what you don't need. It's not that difficult.
No, and I mean, I think just let's call on Dipty to speak about this deeper spiritual space. Because we do need to enter into this door. And Errol, I like what you've said about, creating our inner temple, our home. Our home is a reflection of our inner temple as well. Dipty, let's just hear what Dipty wants to share with us on that.
Thank you, Jane. I think just as Errol was saying as well, and my brother Reddy, I was just thinking how, on a daily basis, we need to activate this pure consciousness that I am. And the more and more I activate this, it's like automatically I let go. It's like you need to, sometimes people think I have to let go, but the entry point is I am, and become full in who you are. And what is not you and doesn't serve you anymore will drop by itself. And so sometimes people get overwhelmed thinking, okay, I need to simplify, I need to get rid of things. And very often people are so attached to the old, they will find every clever way to put it back into their house, But when you really take this time to awaken your real being, and you realize the richness and abundance of who you are, you realize the peace and the tranquility and the inner stability and the love and the purity of your being. The more and more we activate this real, what we call soul consciousness, it drops off the things that doesn't serve you anymore. So as Errol was talking, I was thinking about where I live, and I live in a meditation center. And one of the things that we really do is what doesn't is needed must go. And so our homes are very, very simple, but royal, because
That's nice.
royalty and purity are an important ingredient for our being. But it doesn't mean that you need to have too many stuff. And like Errol was saying, one of the places in our center is our meditation room. But I often say to people, and it was very interesting that there was a couple that used to have a lot of domestic fights. And so I spoke to the little child, and I said to the little child, why don't you create a peace corner in your house? And the child said, me. And I said, yes. Put pictures of peace, whatever you think it is. Put some flowers. And so this child creatively created a peace corner. And it was so powerful that when this couple used to fight, this child, this 5-year-old child, used to hold mommy and daddy's hand and say, come. And they would all go to this peace corner, and the energy would melt away. It is powerful. And I find sometimes you can't tell the adults, but tell the child. and it's amazing. I mean, I work with many children at schools too, and I encourage them to create a peace corner in their house or wherever they are, to create a peace corner. Because any energy that you invest in will grow. And so the more and more you create richness of energy, that which is stale and old and not serving you dies.
Yes.
You can't let something die when you're still attached to it. You can't let something die when you still have an identity with it. But when your identity is much more greater in your purity, in your true self, this eternal being that I am, because we are souls and we are on a journey of life. And right now I have the body of Dipty and you have the body of Jane, and Errol is in his body, and we are all playing our expressive part. But we are eternal beings. Energy can never be destroyed.
Yes.
Energy is always living energy. And so when I understand this deep experience, and as Errol was saying, it's not just believing, but really this is the time to experience. And the more and more I experience my soul consciousness, the more and more I vibrate at a different frequency. I find sometimes I would go into a supermarket and I'll always park on the rooftop. And then as I go down the escalator, I just think I'm an air conditioner of peace. Nobody has to know what I'm doing. But it's like you walk by people and they feel something. They don't know what is happening, but they turn around and look at you and they think, that was nice. What was that? And so we have an amazing capacity. We are living in this world and we have to go shopping and we have to go and do the things we do in our life, but nothing stops me from being who I am. And I don't have to be that loudly, but I can be that powerfully. And that's a choice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's very important for people to realize that everything we do every day, even when we go shopping to supermarkets, etc., we are still being and needing to be in that state that we would be if we were meditating.
Yes.
Except now our eyes are open and we're emanating that vibration, but we're not actually meditating in our meditation center or whatever. But our vibration is a state of meditation. Me and myself always do that wherever we go, and part of that is always thanking people in a very special, authentic way for what they do, especially people who do small things. When you go past, in the supermarket, when we see the African woman cleaning the floors, you know, which they have to do the whole day for 8 hours. Just imagine that, every single day. We always thank them for the fact of that they are doing that work. We always thank the teller, the till, after when we're there in the supermarket for what they're doing. Because those little things are what keep our society going. And those black people are doing very, very difficult work. They get up 4 o'clock in the morning, they have to come with their masks to work, then they have to work the whole day for 8 hours, and they have to go back home with their masks, and then cook dinner for their partner or the kids, whatever. And how many people actually thank them? How many people actually say thank you for this work that you're doing, which is just as important as anyone's big work. So, and we often have people come to us, as we just talked about, in supermarkets, etc., and they come up to us and say, there's something about you two that's different. There's something about you that's different. I can't, every single time I see you, there's something about you that's different. I can't understand, but what are you about? Why are you so different? And I try and work out, because the vibration, our vibration we're putting out is such that they recognize there's something that's not the same. And we all need to be like that. We have to be in, you might say, we have to be in a state of open-eyed meditation the whole time, wherever we are. And practice it so that it becomes so much part of our life that it doesn't even become something special. It's just the way we are. We're in a state of soul consciousness wherever we are, whatever we're doing. And that's the way eventually you live. Your life becomes completely like it all the time. So in that sense, you're in a state of immortal consciousness all the time. So when the day comes when you have to leave your body, because we were talking about that as part of the sequence, to leave your body, the day you have to leave your body, whenever it might be, all you're doing is you're lying down and you're just saying, well, I'm just leaving my body. That'll take about 2 seconds or 1 second, and then boom, I'm into the next state of consciousness, exactly like I was in my body, and carrying on with the next stage of my evolution. And what's there to feel about that?
That's right. And I think, Errol, I mean, just to wrap up, I really want you just to spend, a couple of sentences. And this is very important. Also for the people that are the relatives that are left behind, you've also, I know you've dealt with a lot of people, and I'm sure Sister Dipty also has, but this big transition, people think that shame, these people are dying on their own, and then it's like you said earlier, they're tearful. Just share a little bit, because I know you've spoken to some people who've kind of crossed over and come back, and I mean, as I understand from what you've told me before as well, that's the most joyous space. So we mustn't fear where they're going, and I think they've not gone anywhere. They're just not in this dimension. Am I right, Errol?
Yeah, they just go on to the next. I mean, look, people do sequence when they leave their bodies. They don't just, they don't just go up to heaven or go and sit next to God and have a nice conversation. We wish that things were that easy. They're not that simple. I mean, people move into the next plane of consciousness, which is called the astral plane, which is the next more subtle plane. And that world is exactly the same as the physical world, except it's astral. It's much more subtle. It's much more beautiful. It's much more peaceful, and so on and so on and so on. And they move into the astral body in the astral plane, and there they enter into their life there, their evolution there, their journey there, and so on and so on, their relationships with people on that level. And at a certain stage, later in the evolution, and in terms of the timing of that, none of us know that, because that's only understood when you get in that level. You move out of your astral body into out of the astral world into the mental body in the mental world, and you carry on a much more subtle level with your evolution in your journey. And then, if you're very evolved, if you've evolved yourself while you've been in your body and done what you should do, you then move on from the mental plane to the higher mental plane, which is the first plane of the soul, what's called higher manas, and you evolve and carry on your journey and your service work, etc., on that level. And then, of course, at some stage you reincarnate back into a body, if that's what's destined for you, which is for most people. And the process carries on again. You come down to the mental plane, the astral plane, and then finally the physical plane again. So it's a sequential event of moving you know, like that symbolical Jacob's ladder, where you move up the ladder to the highest part and you come down again to the lowest part. Process. It's not just going into heaven or going to sit next to God or becoming enlightened. It doesn't work like that. Until one day you are enlightened, but that's in the future. But so people are passing on. People, the families or friends of people who are passing on are going through that natural pain of knowing that they cannot be with them physically, which is of course painful in its own right. And that you can't avoid. But what they can know for sure is that if that person passes on, that's not a problem for the person who's passing on. They're just moving into the next body, the next plane, the next evolutionary process, which is much more beautiful and peaceful and loving than on the physical plane, and which has happened many, many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times before with all of us. That's not a problem. The death process is not a problem. Of course, the people who are left behind, they have to deal with all the consequences of that. But there's no such thing as death, and that is like 150% sure, and people don't have to worry about that. And if they want some proof, let them go into YouTube to the NDAs and the OBEs, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples of people from every aspect of life, from scientists to normal people to Christian ministers to every person you can think of who's sharing their NDAs and proving that there's no such thing as death. That is
perfect. Yeah,
that's actually nursery school. It's not even a big thing. It's a very, very simple, basic thing about reality. And for themselves, when they pass on to it. And the other thing about that, just quickly, is that people have to realize that they can die consciously. That means people have to realize that they can leave their bodies consciously with no fear. And no fear whatsoever. They can leave their bodies with no fear, with great joy and tranquility consciously. Everyone can pass on consciously in a state of joy and peace if they just put their minds to it, because that actually is quite possible and not even that difficult, by the way.
And access to people once they've passed on, Errol?
Say that again?
Access to your loved ones who've passed on.
You mean
how do you access? Yeah, what is your view on accessing the people?
Well, first of all, when people leave their bodies, the one thing they want to do is to be able to assure the people that they're left behind, family and so on, their loved ones, that they are not dead, that they are alive, that everything is fine. The only way they can do that is through telepathy.
Yes. Okay.
So they need to do it through telepathy or the dream state. So people need to be aware telepathically of receiving those messages. Normally, the best time you receive them is about between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning, which is the initial time you wake up, when your rational mind is out of the way and the infinite can come in, and or through the dream state. Because every night when we go to sleep, we leave our body. And we go on the inner planes where we are living and actually doing our work and serving as effectively, if not more effectively, on a physical plane. And then when we leave our body, the person who's passed on and us are actually making connections. We're actually, for 8 hours, we're kind of in contact with those people on the inner planes because we've left our body, they've left their body.
True.
And then obviously in the morning we come back into our body. And so often you're in a dream state, you'll come back with a memory of that. Or the person that left the body will communicate to you these things, and you'll come back into your body and bring it through the dream to help you understand that everything is fine. So we've had that many, many times. So that's
thanks, Errol. That's great. I'm gonna turn to Dipty about this, and insofar as the progress is going, we're doing well, everyone. I wanted to bring Dipty in on this point, and Dr. Reddy and I are going to also talk about, the holding on and the pain in the body after Dipty, and then Dipty then will come back and we'll do a meditation. So Errol, we're moving through now with Aquarius. We've got, just to end off, we've got the Venus-Jupiter conjunction with the abundance. And I think we're going through then to the end of this month, yes, on the 28th or 27th of, what was it, of February, Errol? When are we speaking again with you specifically?
Yeah, the 27th of February is the full sun moon of Pisces.
Right.
So that's in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks' time, 27th of February.
Yeah.
And then the 21st of March is going to be then the new year cycle regarding the new astrological year cycle beginning with Aquarius. So we've got two good turning points coming up. And Errol, thank you so much for explaining all of this. It's amazing. We're moving forward. So Dipty, let's carry on with our Errol, you can stay or go, it's up to you. Dipty, I would like to chat to you now about this inner plane and speaking to the loved ones and the energy flow, please.
Okay, thank you. Before I even go into that, I just want to highlight something, and that is to always understand that who we are and what we do, there is an implication of that. So, like, I've always believed that the good acts that you perform in this birth becomes your investment. And so I can't just say, well, my next birth will take care of itself. The reality is that karmically, whatever I invest in comes with me. It's like whatever you store onto your cell phone in the form of your SIM card, when you put it into the next phone, it will be there. But if you haven't put it onto your SIM card, you may have a new phone like the one you have now, but certain information may not be there because you haven't stored it on your SIM card. So similarly, it's very, very important, and this is where we talk about conscious living, that one is I activate this experience of who I am as a being of energy, but also to realize that good karma or good acts or good expression is what I carry with me. And so to have this deep awareness that in this birth that I consciously have right now, what am I doing with it? So when we talk about purpose again, what am I really doing with this life of mine? I've been receiving this valuable life of mine. When the soul leaves this body, what's the vibration I'm leaving with? What is it that I have filled within my being? And I think this is a very important aspect of really to realize that we have a choice. As you say, 365 days a year, but we have a choice. And this choice is very, very necessary. So at the end of the day, every evening when I journal before I go to sleep, I look at the quality of my day and I ask myself, Dipty, what did you invest in you today? What did you invest in the real you? And I think this is a very, very important aspect, that sometimes people fear death because they haven't done the work they've had to do. So there is a fear, what's going to happen? There isn't a feeling of satisfaction inside. And yet you'll see somebody who has lived very consciously and has paid attention to a quality life of pure consciousness. Often those individuals' death is a very peaceful death. They just like go because the soul is full. So it is very, very necessary that on the one level, I'm conscious of who I am. And the second level is I'm conscious of what I can invest in myself in this birth. And I sometimes wonder how people can just let their weeks and their months go by. I sometimes think, oh, I wish I had so much more time because there's so many wonderful things to do. And you want to deepen that experience. And so I feel that the journey beyond this birth is also connected to your karmic story. And so it's very, very important that we perform good expression, not just good action, but the expressions of our life are good. And often you see people who are near death or dying, if they hang on to something, this is where the struggle is. You know, I remember seeing somebody one day, and she was really struggling to go. And then one day I had this quiet moment with her, and I said to her, "What are you holding on to? What is it that you are still holding on to tightly?" And she said, "Well, I've got this jewelry. It's in this cupboard, but nobody knows about it. And I'm not sure who to tell because just now they may take it away. And this is really meant for my grandchildren." So I said, "Okay, so what do you want to do? Because right now you're neither here nor there. So what would you really like to do?" And it was amazing when I was able to call the right people in and she was able to finish her business with them. The soul peacefully left. So we have to look also within our life, what is it that is unfinished? Because people struggle when they, like maybe they had a bad relationship with someone and there's a lot of resentment and they've not had the chance to make peace with them or forgive them.
Yes.
Then in their last birth of time, they struggle. They struggle a lot before they leave their body.
Yeah.
And so I find, why wait till your last minute? Every day, look at your day and ask yourself, where's my unfinished business? And
True.
right now, I feel I have a clarity of mind, I have a stamina of body, I have an environment that's still supportive. So let me do the work that I need to do. And the quality of then my transition to my next journey is very much based on the quality of life I live. So I really feel that we need to re-look at our life and look at our purpose and ask ourselves, why do I live every day? I often ask myself the question, Dipty, are you existing or are you living? Because there's a big difference between existing and living. And if we're not living each day, then we will have a lot of unfinished business. And that unfinished business is going to cause pain.
Yeah,
So,
pain and anger and fear and holding on to things and not surrendering and Dipty, just hold things. Dr. Reddy's got to leave, so I just would like to bring him in. He wants to comment on something you've just said, and then he can be free for his next webinar, and then you and me can carry on. Reggie, what did you want to comment on there?
Yeah, I think I just want to tie something very important what Errol had mentioned and what Sister Dipty had mentioned. And, there's a wonderful expression to say that I unmake you and remake you and replace your ego with a transcendental consciousness. So you evolve yourself from a high level of consciousness. But this only could happen if you believe in the uncertainty principle, that nothing is permanent and nothing is certain. This very second that we speak now is gone, is history. Right, so that's intertwined something very important on faith. If you have faith in your own self, which is an energy transfer within yourself for a higher purpose, and I think that this COVID-19 has shown us beautifully, it's about your inward path and believing the uncertainty principle. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. And you mentioned a very key word there as well, transcendental. Now, dental's got the word dentist, it's got the word teeth in it. And next turning point, or next time when we meet with Dr. Reddy, we're going to be talking about, even more on the spiritual side of teeth. And Dr. Reddy, I think you're picking up on emotions all day long with these teeth. The more I look and the more I research, self-worth and self-expression and anger and so on. When you're busy drilling there, you're busy probably drilling at the anger too. So we'll talk more on that next time. And You know, let's hear about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that too, and this thing about the dentist. But thank you so much for joining us. We know you got to run, so we're going to carry on and press on, and you'll get the recording in any event. And thank you for your valuable input.
Thank you very much, Jane, and thank you much, Dipty, Sister Dipty, and Errol, and all the participants. It was great.
Thanks very much.
And everyone is also saying thanks. Okay.
It's so nice to be such a conscious dentist.
I'm going to sign off now.
Okay, fine, Errol. Ciao. Thank you, Errol. Thanks.
Send us a nice YouTuber, and I'll send it on.
I will do that. Thanks, Errol.
Great,
Okay. Thank you so much. Ciao.
Ciao.
So Dipty, you know, this is this thing you're speaking about existing and living. I mean, I think that's absolutely key. And what I love about the way you simply put things is it's just very powerful, and the words are very loaded and very meaningful on a very, very deep level. And I think we need to find this inner freedom, and this is what we're looking for. And we keep looking outside. I mean, myself included, you know. And my gosh, the messages are there. We got to be looking deep inside to release the freedom. Am I right?
Yes. And I feel that freedom comes from truth. So that's, sometimes people are looking for freedom, but they're not looking in the right place for freedom. Then they get disheartened and disappointed. But when I understand truth and I understand the eternity of truth, there's a freedom. There's a freedom. You know, I find sometimes in my meditation, I remember once I just took 3 months and just kept one word alive. I'm an eternal being. And I really worked on that I am an eternal being. And I journaled about it. I lived it. When I was eating my meal, I would think that I'm an eternal being. And after about 3 weeks, a part of me was rejecting it, saying, oh, it's too much now. Just be normal, you know. But when I was able to have a breakthrough on this moment, because you need to get fed up, or you have a breakthrough point, and then when you get to the other side, it's that threshold moment, right? And when you get through to the other side, there's the freedom. And so it's a very, very beautiful experience we need to take some of these concepts, and I feel that we don't live them long enough. It's like I may think I'm a soul, the next minute I say I need to go buy a bag of potatoes. Can you see the two you know what I mean? It's like we don't bake. We have the most beautiful ingredients, but we don't bake them to get a product. And I think this is where the gap is. A lot of people have a lot of beautiful ingredients, but they're not taking time to blend them.
Yes.
They're not taking time to hold them in a space of awareness so that you get a product. And otherwise, that's when people then after a while get disappointed. They say, no, I meditate for a period of time. I've tried it, but it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work. Life is very challenging out there. These nice things that you talk about are too hard for me to live. And I think the reason for that is we don't give ourselves enough time. We have to bake some of these ideas till they have life. You know, take a week and say to yourself, I'm going to live with peace. Give peace hospitality in your home. Invite peace into your home. Live with peace, walk with peace, eat with peace, say goodnight to peace. It's like you have a guest in your home.
Lovely.
Same thing, live with love. You know, I used to find when I just got introduced to meditation, I would take 1 week with one quality. And I would say to this quality, okay, I'm offering you hospitality. Come and live with me today. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you with somebody and there's a third person. Just say you're walking and with you've got an amazing human being. Now you're meeting a third person, and that third person is talking a lot of gossip. You are so mindful that who you have with you that you will change the conversation because you respect who you've got with you.
That's amazing.
With me.
I think it's hugely important.
So similarly, I think we have to live with these qualities, and these are the qualities that come with us. What is it that we take after this death of this body? It's not the death of the soul, it's death of the body. So I, the eternal being, what do I take with me? It's what I've put inside. So if I've really deepened that peace, I've really deepened that love, and these just sound like words, but they're powerful. They're incredibly powerful words that we have to give life to. This month people talk about love, and they talk about love so casually that the frequency of that love is so low. It's not even love in any case. And yet love is the most transformative energy. God is love.
And Dipty,
how much do I step into that and live my love and transform my life? And I don't even have to be loud about it. I don't have to advertise.
No.
I don't have to advertise my journey at all. I just have to live it.
And I mean, this is the thing. So if people, myself included, if we can't get to that peace and love, okay, so what's holding us back? What are we holding on to? What are we still attached to? And that was when I started in the beginning also by saying, where's the pain point? Where in your body? Because your body speaks your mind. And, if it's the lymphatic system, there's stagnation. So is it serving me or not? If it's thyroid, lack of social and self-expression, is it serving me or not? And this is part of the quantum treatment that we do, is we look physically, neurologically, emotionally, and spiritually, and to clear this deck so that people can, move forward into these beautiful spaces. And, your knees and your feet are related to your purpose, your direction. And if you've got a foot or a toe or a knee problem, you're not facing that the road you're going down is not the road of your purpose. So we can pick up so many things, even anemia and blood flow and everything. Are you giving and receiving? Or is there an equal flow of giving and receiving? So that was the exercise I was wanting people to do, is to get into that space. Where's it sore? And yes, it can be linked to the teeth too, but I'm just saying, is it in the lower back? What are you holding on to? And then start asking yourself and working in also an epigenetic ancestral realm and saying, has it got to do with mom or dad? Has it got to do with mom's mom or dad's dad? Or, am I holding that ancestral emotion with me? Is it serving me? Am I busy passing it on to my children? So we can be quite present and real about the pain.
I'm smiling on the side because this week I felt so much of pain, and I thought, ooh. And I knew that there were energies, because I think where we are in time, I know that I have a certain purpose to fulfill. And I'm very in tune to vibrations. And there was a lot of congestion in the vibration this week. There was a lot of things that were happening. And without realizing, I was absorbing it.
Wow.
And I could feel the pain. And the one day, actually 2 days ago, I thought, ooh, okay, go and look for your cell vitality. So let's start at step 1. So I did that. But then I realized together with that is I needed to shift my energy almost immediately and start working from a space of knowing that together with God's energy, I'm an instrument. I am one who's the instrument for peace. I'm the one who will be able to deliver. It's like coming back to my purpose and coming back to my consciousness rather than absorbing. And I mean, I have somebody very close to me right now in India who's in quite a delicate state. And I just realized that all of these things I had absorbed. And when my body just felt pain, I knew. And so when you were talking, I was smiling on the side because, I mean, I certainly feel quite free of the pain today. But the last 2 days, I had to do the work.
You did.
And I couldn't just say to myself, oh, my body's in pain.
Reach for a Panado or something, you know. You didn't want to reach for the painkiller because, I mean, really, what's that going to help? So yes, I think these are our real time initiation points, and they're there to allow us to take that next step upwards. And Rudolf Steiner says illness is a gift, and it honestly is. And if we can look at it like that, look at this whole lockdown in that perspective as well, and look at it as points of initiation, I think that's what gets us through. They're little alarm bells that are going off. Just what you said. I love your
and just
story.
listen to them. Listen to them.
Listen to them.
Yeah. And as you were saying, I was thinking, oh, do I need a Panado? I've never taken a Panado in a long time. No. And then I thought, I looked at the Panado on the shelf and I looked at the cell vitality and I thought, you know what's good for you. So start in the right place.
Let's go
so
for
I started drinking
oxygen.
the water. Yeah. And doing that. And then really just taking my journal and I started writing. And I activated a consciousness that was above the pain. And as I was able to activate the consciousness above the pain relaxed. You know, Tuesday was, I thought, ooh, okay. But I just found that as today's Thursday and I just feel so much more better. And you just realize how much you can absorb, but don't dismiss it. That's the thing. Don't dismiss it. Don't think, oh, I just need to take something to relieve this pain. Address the pain.
Yeah.
You know, feel where it is. And, you know, if it's in your stomach area and you realize maybe you're anxious about somebody you love and what's about to happen to them or whatever, because we're human. And then you just like work above that.
Lovely.
And as you work above that, you deal with it. So I just really want to highlight to all of us today is that what we're talking about today is real. So it's not like everything is perfect and that we never have this kind of no pain and we don't go through things, but use every moment for the shift. Yeah.
Absolutely. And before we go into our meditation, I just want to show you some of these courses that can help as well. And Dipty's also got some beautiful courses that she also runs on a daily and weekly basis. But if I just share the screen shortly, I just want to show you what's up a little bit on the 365 space, where I find many people can find and acquire some knowledge that we were speaking about earlier as well and take themselves to the next level. Things like the turning point. And this is our weekly lineup. We're bringing in the immune courses again with Professor Deja Dubonnet, which, you know, she's really got an angelic realm around her as well. And we do the Tuesday live where, incidentally, to those who are new, we do case studies, live case studies, 365 live case studies, and we talk across the board on physical, neurological, emotional, spiritual, and every person that comes into our centers is a case study. And, you know, we really do treat holistically in that space. So we speak about the case studies. People come in and it's really great. I do post them on the YouTube. And then we're going to be starting our quantum healing courses, which take all of this into consideration as well. And then to show you also, Dipty was talking about the cell vitality oxygen. We've got, after the quantum healing courses, it's going to be bi-weekly. We've got a 2-part course there where we're doing theory and practical. And she wasn't really mentioning the word lightly, because we've got to get that cell vital. And it's that cell itself is physical. It's got a neurological aspect, emotional aspect, and a spiritual aspect. So that course is very nice too. And then we've also got the practice management, running your businesses, your vocation, and what you need to do, things like that. And then we've got lots of short 1 hour courses as well that you can go and have a look at. We've also got some great ideas that are literally business in a box. We've got branches, we're going to set up franchises and things, and really take all of this dynamic work to the next level. So I wanted to share that with you. And we've, as I say, that's just a brief view of the short courses where we're bringing in all these dynamics. And I'm assisting, and sharing and raising awareness to, let's just say, and I mean, Dipty, you know me well, I walk my talk, so I'm not going to do a course about something I haven't done. And similarly with you. So I think we were quite a nice force there to bring these courses and your courses to the
and
fore.
really our courses that we offer at the Brahma Kumaris, really just to encourage people to take time to learn how to meditate. I think it's a beautiful avenue to step into and make part of your life. I remember when I just started meditating, I was 19 years old, and people in my life said to me, "You're too young to meditate. You must first enjoy your life." And I mean, I find meditation for me is a preparation for life rather than a retreat from life. The more and more I've learned to meditate over the years, it has helped me to prepare for life's journey. And I think it's no longer a luxury, it's a necessity.
Definitely.
It's like you need silence. It's like people get up in the morning and they're in 5th gear before they even woke up. How damaging that is. It's so damaging to your being. Yeah, I always use the example, and you probably heard it me share before. If we want to learn from the sunrise and learn from the sunset. There's never a rushed sunrise. It is a beautiful sunrise and the sunset. And so our lives, the way we wake up and the way we go to sleep are critical. Your whole quality of your day is dependent on your waking up. It's like the flight, your takeoff and your landing. Those are critical in a flight. Similarly, in our life as well, our takeoff in the morning, don't take off on 5th gear. Take off on 1st gear and build your vibrational energy for the day, because the day will meet you where you are at.
That's true.
It's a key thing to remember. The day will meet you where you are at.
That is so true, Dipty. If you haven't rested properly, there's going to be a challenge the next day for you. You'll be caught on the back foot. It's happened to me too many times.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you for
Wonderful.
that. So Dipty, just listening to you is a meditation in itself, but I'm sure you've got a few very, very awesome words to share with us. And
Okay.
let's do that.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Jane.
All right.
Good. So once again, just allow your body to sit in a relaxed position, but try to keep your body upright so that there is good concentration. Bring your energies to a point of centeredness in the center of your forehead. I, the soul, am a living being of pure consciousness. Activate this energy of your being and feel how this energy vibrates through your whole body. I, the soul, am the master of this body. I, the soul, am eternal. I existed before this body, and I will continue to exist after this body. I, the soul, am peace. Go deep inside your being and activate this original state of peace that you are. Deep within myself, there is a reservoir of total peace. Touch that piece of who you are. I, the soul, am naturally loving. There's a warmth of love and the security of love that surrounds my being. I, the soul, am naturally joyful and powerful. This is my well-being. Becoming aware and being positioned in my true awareness. With the power of my mind, I connect to that highest source of all peace, all love, all joy. With the power of my mind, I connect to that supreme source of the highest energy of peace and love, and I absorb that energy into my being. I stay centered in who I am, and I continue to absorb from that highest source, that supreme source of peace, love, purity, and power. I continue to fill myself being in this connection. I, the soul, feel energized, refreshed, rejuvenated. I stay present in this energy. And as I continue to use this valuable body of mine to give expression in my life, I stay aware of who I am. And I keep giving light and love and pure healing energy to my whole body. I come once again into a state of well-being, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipty. Very, very, very powerful. Sure. I always feel after your meditations, there's no real need to wrap up. So we can take your high vibrational space and move into the rest of the day and the week. And, you know, all that's left to say is thank you, and thank you. And thank you to everybody for joining and being part of this very, very special Turning Point event. It's just given with love and the purity and the vibrance that you speak of as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dipty.
May you all have a powerful day and a powerful week. And remember, it's all a choice every day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Dipty.